Ready to boost your video creations? Try Maxon Studio. Maxon Studio's got your back with a sleek dashboard that's like your own personal editing playground. We're talking dynamic capsules galore. Our capsules are designed to supercharge your content creation game inside After Effects. So say goodbye to staring at a blank screen, wondering where to start. Maxon Studio hooks you up with pre-designed, customizable elements. The collection is always growing, from elegant motion graphics to seamless transitions, animated titles, and amazing effects. The best part is, you don't need to be a designer or spend hours tweaking every little detail, because user-friendly controls make it easy to tweak text, colors, and more to match your vibe. So, what are you waiting for? Start creating breathtaking videos today with Maxon Studio. Take it for a spin with our free 14-day trial. Level up your content now.
Well, hello, everyone. Happy Monday. I think last week on Thursday I said Happy Monday, but anyway, every day is Happy Monday. I'm here with my very good friend, Jörg Vogel, and we're here for the fourth and last installment of architectural visualization, archivisual architecture, whatever. You can put the words together. And I'm going to go through. How are you, Jörg? Good?
Yeah, great. Thanks. Just coming from my vacation, so I'm ready. My body is ready. My mind is ready.
Excellent. I think our users are ready as well. I'm going to go through the customary housekeeping, and let's do it. There we go. And let me just show the screen. I'm self-producing today, so mistakes will happen. So if you want to check out the events are happening, go to the link for the free t-shirt, check out University, check out the YouTube channel, the training team YouTube channel, and ask your question, which is under this new form here. All you have to do is go to this link over here, which I'm going to paste in the comments right now. There we go. And you'll be able to get to this page that will lead you to all sorts of interesting things, including the Maxon events, the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel, which in this case, you need to remember that all the videos after they're presented live, they are hosted. If you want to rewatch them with comments and timestamps kindly provided by Dr. Sassy, our dear beloved colleague, only the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel has those recorded. But you can watch them live on both this channel and the Maxon YouTube channel that has tons of other interesting, entertaining, and educational content. Of course, do not forget to go to the ZBrush YouTube channel to learn this amazing software. And you'll be amazed on what people do with ZBrush. And finally, don't forget to go to University and check out all the tutorials I've made and others as well. See what I did there? So what else do I have to say? Oh, if you want to go and get a free t-shirt over here, get your t-shirt. And I'm going to bring up a QR code that, as far as I know, will take you to this page. There you go. Take a snapshot of this, or you can use the link I posted earlier if for any reason this doesn't work. But if you go to the Get Your T-shirt page, which I've already used the code, you can use this code over here. I'm going to go back to the comments. I'm going to paste it here, press enter, and then go and show it on screen as well. House of Polygons, all capital letters without any spaces. And I had a comment on Thursday that it didn't work. I checked it. It may have been a momentary glitch. Let us know, please. And this free t-shirt is a token of appreciation towards you, that you spend time with us and you come and ask your questions and watch the content and all the talented artists we bring over here, one of them being Jörg. Do I have anything else to show? Yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me or Jonas Pils on Twitter, X, Twixer, or whatever. If you're asking a question, please, in the comments, please preface it with capitalized question so we can distinguish it from general comments and compliments. And what else do I have here? Yes, and there's this little form over here, this little form. And if you snapshot this link, which for some reason I thought I had, let me put it in the chat as well. And how do I do that? I hide it, and then I click on this, and then I copy it. Good. And let me put it in the chat over here. If you want to request any of the old Cineversity tutorials and guide us towards what you think is more important to migrate them to the new Cineversity. And yeah, I think that's what I have to say about this. Let me do that. And here is Jörg Vogel. Jörg, what do you do? Are you? And what are you going to show us today?
Yes, I'm Jörg, and I'm working for Fuchs and Vogel, a 3D specialized company we founded in 2014. My colleague and me, and yeah, at the moment we are like around 6-7 people working here, only with Cinema 4D since we started, and yeah, we are specialized on photorealistic 3D stuff. So it's so we are not that kind of creative motion design guys here and women. We are more like focused on very precise and photorealistic detailed stuff like product visualizations and also animations. We do also a lot for Lego, for example, and also some architecture visualization stuff, which is not only covering real estate stuff, but we also use this kind of stuff to present other products, like for lighting companies like LED Vans. For them, it's very important to show their product in some environment. So for them, you also need some architectural visualizations, even if it's not about the real estate stuff. So yeah, we have a big, so it's divided between product visualizations, animations, and this architecture stuff. And yeah, in the last episode, I talked mainly on interior things, like you build your scene, how to structure it, how I gave a few tips how we work. We build our scenes, we render the scenes, and today I wanted to show some more technical stuff in this direction, how to improve things, go a little bit into depth into some details. And I also wanted to cover a little bit some things about outdoor exterior renderings, because at the moment we're just focusing on interior, but I think there are a few tips I can give for exterior renderings. We also do a lot. So that's the plan for today.
And people can find your work at Fuchs and Vogel on Instagram. I posted your website address, and as far as I know, you create some productivity tools sometimes, and you sell them on Gumroad, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We have some plugins, some helpers, some setups, and I will come to a setup for the exterior part later on. And at the end, I will also have some discount code for the viewers here.
Oh, fantastic! And I think this one is the one you're talking about.
Yes, that's the one we released today. So it's hot.
It's hot.
It was just released a few. I mean, it's always like you have this stuff laying on your hard drive for weeks or months, and you have to prepare it to bring it online. So it's a setup we worked on for the last, I would say, years to get a good performance and a visual appealing look. So yeah, that's I will show it in detail later on when it's
Excellent.
when we are covering the exterior part.
Okay, so let me share your
Yes.
screen.
Yeah, perfect.
And yes, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, first of all, let me just show you a show reel that shows our the work we are doing, like for like motion work we are doing, the animated stuff. Yeah, maybe you can spot some architectural stuff in there, and I will also come back to some of these projects you're seeing there. So let me just start here.
The audio is not coming through, Jörg, as it were, when we were testing the audio.
No audio.
It's coming through your microphone, whereas
Ah.
earlier, yeah, something happened. I promise you, everyone, we tested this and it was
Yeah,
working
of
fine.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's just maybe we can still hear me.
I can hear you.
That's perfect. Let's just try it again.
Let's try it again. Yes.
Perfect.
Interesting that you mentioned that you're not a creative studio, but anyway, I allow you.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to point out that we are not the guys that do this like this abstract motion graphic stuff all the time.
Okay.
I think there are more specialized studios on that. We are more a base studio on doing more realistic stuff. That's what I wanted to.
Okay, I'm not taking more of your time. Go ahead.
Perfect. So yeah, we will cover today the interior rendering. It's called, like, the stream is called interior rendering, adding life to renderings. So that's a part where we come later on to adding life to your renderings for animations, for example. But what I wanted to cover first is I just teased it in the last one because I wanted to not, in the first episode, I didn't want to cover too much on technical stuff. So a question is always, how do we optimize our render settings, or what is the approach to get to a clean rendering that doesn't take hours to render, especially if you're talking about single images. It's render times are not really a big problem nowadays, but if you're talking about animations, it could be a problem if your interior renderings take I don't know, like an hour per frame to render, and you are limited to, I don't know, 1 or 2 workstations. We don't have the problem here because we have a lot of GPUs, but yeah, it's even then, it's like when it's rendering an hour and you need 1 minute of footage, it's not good if it's rendering that long. So the question is, how do we optimize our render settings? And of course, I'm talking about Redshift. Like the first one, we will go into Cinema 4D, and then I will go into it in detail, but just a brief overview of what we are talking about. Like the first try is always even here, it's automatic sampling. Just try automatic sampling. If it looks good, if the times are good, or enough for you, just use it, because it's always like operator time is always more expensive than machine time. So if you're not blocking your computer and you cannot really work, if you have a second machine, just throw it on there and let it render, because the time you need to optimize a scene is most of the time it's more expensive than just rendering like 1, 2, or 3 hours longer for this project. So always try this. I will show it to you after that. But if you're not happy with the result, like if it's rendering too long, or it has too much noise, and if you're turning the threshold down, then it will look good, but then it's rendering too long, you can just go the manual way and try to tweak the settings manually, and then it's getting a little bit complicated. But I will just show you how we approach in scenes to just optimize the settings. Like, first create some AOVs to locate the noise you get, and then adjust settings for the different passes or the different rays. Like, you have diffuse ray, reflection ray, you have refraction, GI rays, everything that's added together. So yeah, let's just switch over to Cinema 4D. It's on this side here. And yeah, we are here on a scene. You may, if you have seen the first part, you may you know this already. I just deleted the curtain here because that just makes it render very long. So I just made it a little bit easier to render. Just for your information, this PC here has one 4090 RTX card, so it's rendering with a single GPU. Just, yeah, you can just sort it in some kind. So let's just get into the render settings and what you can see here. So normally it's starting with the basic tab. We don't use it here because it's very limited, and I think it's like low, medium, high, very high. You don't know really what's happening there. The only thing that's controlled with low, medium, and high is literally turning automatic sampling on and adjusting this threshold. And the smaller you turn this, the less noise you get, but also the render times will get longer. So let's just turn this on here, and you see you have a threshold here of 0.01, and it's rendering like 19 seconds, but it's still very, very noisy. In this case, I don't want to really compare like the render times, because there are situations, as I mentioned, like automatic sampling works perfectly. It's good enough, and it won't render faster if you optimize the settings so much. So I would just show you how you can optimize the settings if you want to, or you need to. But it's at the moment here, it's not about comparing the render times. And we could now turn this lower here. If you put, like, for example, 0.005, you will see that we can make a snapshot here to compare it. It's always good to take some snapshots here. And as you can see, the render times increase a little bit, but you also can see here like that you're getting a lot less noise here. So this is how you use automatic sampling. It's like the easy way. Just adjust it here, the threshold, and that's it. So if we want to go the manual way, we just turn automatic sampling off, and as you can see, these are the default settings here, and you can see it's super noisy at the moment. So a lot of people or a lot of artists I talk to, it's like when they see this, they start cranking up the max samples and the min samples. They just crank everything up, and then at some point they're getting a noise-free image, but it's rendering very long, and they don't know really what they are doing. So I think the main part to understand is how you can identify where the noise is coming from, because there are different rays I mentioned, and like it could be that maybe the diffuse rays are already noise free and the noise is coming from another thing. So you first have to sort this out.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yep.
A few years ago, I watched, I would say, the most comprehensive tutorial about all these settings from Sol Espinosa, which is our colleague, The Art of Sol, and on YouTube. And if I find the link, I'll post it. And one thing he said, which was very interesting, is that the threshold, samples min and samples max, the 0.01, 4, and 16, the only thing they control is the anti-aliasing of the whole scene, the
Yes.
samples for the depth of field, and the
Yes.
samples for the motion blur.
Exactly.
And everything else is going to be controlled with what Jörg is going to show you now.
Yeah, with the overrides. And yeah, that's a good point you mentioned, because like when you have the threshold here, it's just adaptive sampling. Like the higher you do the threshold here, the more it will tend to go into the sample's minimum direction, and the lower you make the threshold, the more it tends to use the maximum. How it's I don't care how it's done technically, but I think it's just it's just like the higher you put the threshold here, the more it goes into this direction, and vice versa. So the point is, at the moment when we want to see what we are doing with, for example, with the reflection rays or the light rays here, we don't want to take this into account, like the adaptive part. So what we are doing here, we just override it with a fixed sampling. Like when you're just putting in the same amount here, the threshold just has it's just doing nothing, because we just set the minimum and maximum samples to the same value here. So it's just like I would do a fixed sampling. It's not adaptive anymore. But that's good, because then because if it's adaptive and we want to see where the problems are, where the noise is, then it's not good if we also have this adaptive amount to take into account. We want to isolate the single rays so we can identify the problem. So how we can do this? I just set this to 64. It's a good way to start. Like if you have a lot of depth of field, I would recommend to start higher, like with 256 or 500 or whatever, like a higher amount, because otherwise you will never get some clean motion blur or some clean depth of field. But if you're not having a lot depth of field or not a lot motion blur in your scene, you can just go with like 64 or 128 or yeah. So what we're doing next is we go to the AOV tab, and there we just create different AOVs. Like we need the GI, we need some reflections, and also specular lighting. Specular lighting is everything, is like when you have an area light and that's reflecting somewhere, like the first bounce, that's in the specular lighting pass, and the rest is in the reflection pass. So we need them both. And then we have the refraction pass, and then we have the diffuse lighting pass. If we have some subsurface scattering, we need a subsurface pass. If we have some emitting lights, we need an emitter pass. So I think this would cover the most. But in this case, I'm just fine with these one. And as you can see, I already rendered them in bucket mode, because that's what you need to see the final outcome. You can go here to the render view, and there you have the different passes here. And maybe you can already see this. We have here the diffuse lighting pass, and you see there's a lot of noise in here. We have the GI pass. There is also a lot of noise.
Could you make the render window a bit bigger, if you may? even if it has more noise, if we see it bigger, so they can zoom in. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. I can get rid of this one. Then it's so like this. Then we don't have a lot reflections here, but you can see where we have the reflection. It's still very noisy. We have some hot pixels here, so it's, yeah, overall you can see every pass here like some refraction, not a lot. So maybe the refractions are already fine, and we have the specular lighting. Yeah, you see, it's like here, it's also a little bit noisy. It's not that we have a lot of first bounce reflection, it seems like here, but yeah, we will look at that later on. So first of all, what I'm normally doing is I'm just going to the diffuse lighting pass, and what you can now do here is you can override the samples. Like, you can just give more samples to it. Now, what you may, I would just screenshot it. So normally you would think you turn this on, and then you say like, okay, I put there something more than 0, like 28, for example, here. And you can see literally nothing changes here. Nothing. So that's the first point where some people think, hey, what's going on here? Like, you put in 64 and render again, and let's just wait here. Yeah, you see it's barely doing anything. So the problem here, or what you have to know, is that it's always taking this number here internally and divides it through this number here. So at the moment we are just typing in here one sample. So if you want to get an increase in samples, you have to put in a multiple of this value here. So like, for example, let's put in some 512, for example.
And it's good to work with powers of 2.
Yeah.
Not just you know, a whatever random number. Although it may make a difference, you won't get the improvements in quality that you expect. Whereas if you use powers of 2, then that will give you the best, let's say, memory / performance.
Yes. And now you can see that it's now a lot better already. And you can also see that it's, when we go to the GI pass, there nothing changes. So you see, at the moment we are just working on the diffuse lighting here. We can also switch to the beauty pass again, and you already see it's already better, but we still have a lot of noise here. So we need to improve it a little bit more. I just wanted to point this out because some people always think if I put some higher number somewhere, it's getting better. But maybe we can, if you look at the last one where we just put in here 512, and we just put in here 512, and just look what happened. You see that it's now the overall sampling is like the anti-aliasing is now sampling more. So it's getting a little bit more rid of the grain, but you have higher rendering times, and the noise is literally worse, like you can see here. It's not really getting better. So yeah, that's important to understand, because if you hire these settings here, you also need to hire those settings. They are connected. So that's really important to understand and to know. So just let's go on. Like we have here, that was the last rendering where we were focusing on the GI. Now you can see that's the global illumination, and we don't have some GI tab here. We have to go to the global illumination, and here you see we just have 16 brute force rays. So let's just rise this to 2048. And let's have a look what's happening now. And you can see that's just the GI, and that's, yeah, it's getting a lot better now, a lot smoother overall. So I think for GI, and always keep in mind all the passes add together. So you don't need to have every pass totally noise free, because it's not like you're looking 100% on every pass. It's, if you get some decent noise in every pass, normally it will look good in the beauty overall. So what we have here now is, yeah, it looks decent. I think it's not perfect. Like you can see here, still the reflections. You have some hot pixels here going on and some stuff here. And this is clearly for the reflection. So what we are now doing, or what we can do now, is just go to the reflections, make an override, and yeah, maybe also 512, and maybe that's already enough. Yeah, you see it's more clear here now on the walls. Yeah, so I think that's not so bad. Like maybe the diffuse lighting is still a little bit noisy, so we we'll just crank this a little bit up, and yeah, I think that's a lot better. But with this technique, you can just isolate the rays, and yeah, you can see, okay, I have a problem with my first with my diffuse lighting rays. I need to crank this number up, and you can be, yeah, you have it in your hands what's happening here, and it's not like doing a brute force method and set a higher value for every ray that's in your scene. So I think that's already good. Like you can see with this, this was the original automatic sampling one with 0.01, and I think you can see that it has a lot of noise here, and that's the one we have here, and it's like 24 seconds, and the other one was like 19 seconds. So yeah, it's taking a little bit longer, but it's also more noise free. So yeah, that's how you can go the manual way, I would say. And if I said, if you have volumes in your scene, if you have subsurface scattering, just add them to your AOV in the AOV tab here, and then you can just set the samples here manually. Same for ambient occlusion, refraction. That's it. Yeah, it's not really complicated, but you have to know how to isolate things to have a process where you can approach. Yeah, and as Athanasius already told, it's for motion blur, you don't have samples, and the same is for depth of field, because it's all sampled here. Yeah, what I also forget, after you optimize your scene, you can go back to automatic sampling, because at the moment we have the no adaptive threshold, so we can lower this threshold here and lower this one here, for example, to 16, and maybe this could give us a little bit of speed increase without getting, yeah, you see now that's really decent, because we now have less noise here, and the render times are already lower than the automatic one. So yeah, I think that's a good way to approach those things. We don't have a lot depth of field here. Like I mean, it's a very small resolution. You always have to judge it in your final resolution, I think. For now, I wanted a setup that's rendering fast for the presentation. So it could be that when you render it in higher resolutions, that maybe the 64 samples are not enough for the depth of field we have here in the foreground. If that's the case, just hire those max samples, and also then hire the overrides with the amount you hire this. So if you take this 2 times, also multiply those values with 2 in that case. Yeah, so I think that's everything I have to say in this short compressed amount of time I have to this topic.
Just one more thing, that if someone
Yeah.
wants to quickly take it to the next level, this sampling settings, you can go outside of the render settings and go and control the samplings per light or the samplings per material, and sometimes in some of the material properties, even per property. So what Jörg showed you is the overall scene evaluation. If you want further optimizations, and that is one of the key highlights of Redshift, that allows you to go right into the details and control the samples of so many things. If a light has a very small contribution in a scene, you can always, if you have one light that has a lot of contribution and another light that doesn't have a lot of contribution, you can do your overrides, but then you can go to the light that has higher contribution and increase the samples over there, or reduce the other ones on the other one. So just want to mention that there are further ways that will take a few hours for Jörg to show them.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, that's a really good feature. And to be honest, like this per light sampling or per material sampling, it's very specific. We never had this case where we needed to dig into the materials or the light to adjust the samples, because it's like I told, at the end, it's like you can optimize it until you're dead. And at the end, it's most of the time, like when you're getting the settings right here, you won't get back the time you invest into your further optimization with lights. I think that those are very special occasions where this may pay off. But normally, it's, if you master this, I think you're at 95%, and
Yes.
the rest of the 5%, that's maybe in some special situations that it's always good if you have the possibility to adjust things. That's a great thing with Redshift, because you have a lot of settings. But I think 90% of the settings normal people never touch, and it's just working.
And let's not forget that the most expensive asset in a studio would be the artist's time.
Yeah.
So, as you said in the very beginning, what I would like to translate that into numbers. What is your hourly rate? I'm asking, just put that number in your mind. And if you're going to spend for one project a certain number of hours optimizing to save a few hours, then that the difference of those hours, if you add it up and see how much time you wasted, maybe it's worth buying an extra GPU. And I'm not saying that as a joke. Investing in hardware that will double your render speeds may be a better placed investment than working 3 days to save, I don't know how many hours times what you're paid for. So do those calculations, and sometimes you'll find that purchasing faster hardware, improving your workstations, may be a better financial decision.
Yes, absolutely. Like it was the first thing we did when we started in 2014. The first thing we did, we took a lot of money and built our own CPU render farm, because we were using V-Ray, and I think GPU rendering was not a thing at that time. So I think it's always worth it to have at least one extra PC for render jobs, so you're not blocking your time, because time is the most valuable thing you have. So don't waste it. Don't waste it. If you can afford it and throw some money on the problem, just do it, because it will pay off later, because you have more time.
Yep, we have a question from Halal Studio. I don't know if you can give a general answer. The question would be, could you please show the setup for the higher quality print image? I will give you the question in a slightly different form. Are there any specific settings that have more relevance to still images as compared to animations, or the differences? Or does everything fall under the settings that you showed, which are dependent on resolution, on scene, on materials, and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, when you have like, if I'm working in this small resolution, I can't really judge how the depth of field is doing here, for example, and maybe the noise is on few spots. It won't be too noisy. So it's always good if you're working in a smaller resolution to get your settings, good settings, to because otherwise you're just waiting and wasting time. And when you think, okay, this might work out, just go to your final resolution and make some region rendering on the spots you maybe identified that have the most noise in your scene, and just make some preview renderings. What you can do here is just lower the bucket size here to the minimum, because then you get faster feedback, even if it's small, but you get faster feedback. But if you're going for the finer rendering, just make the buckets as big as you can. I think you cannot use 512, for example, if you're using Cryptomat, because then it's limited to 256. But otherwise just go with higher buckets, because then it's like in Redshift, it's always faster with bigger buckets. But that would be my advice. Just try it with a small image, like it's looking decent to your eye, and then type in the bigger, like the final resolution, and do some region renderings for, like when you have a lot of depth of field, look for the spot where you think the most bouquets or something like that is happening, because that's most critical. And or some subsurface scattering or refractions or whatever.
The follow-up question, sorry, just to interrupt you, that print needs high DPI. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. It's all situational, and this is my answer to Halal Studio. It all has to do with a specific image, the specific thing you're doing. And let me give you, this is a very extreme example. Okay, if you are making a render of a pure white wall, then you can have the lowest possible settings you can imagine. If you're making a render that has a lot of intricate detail, then you need to improve the settings. It doesn't matter if it's higher resolution or low resolution. Everything is situational. It depends on what kind of things you have in your scene, how much detail there is, and how much contrast. And sorry for eating into your time, but for our viewers to understand, for example, what the threshold, if you go to your render settings and look at the sampling tab and look at that threshold there, the only thing the threshold does, including some other magic, it compares the contrast of one pixel. And when I say contrast, I mean the luminance. The pixel luminance the two pixels that are next to each other. It compares the difference in luminance. If that difference in luminance falls under a certain threshold, then the renderer assumes that these two are similarly colored, which makes the renderer stop, because noise is nothing more than having different colors at very high contrast at different lightness levels. So that's why you see these very low sample images that have all these spots. And if you zoom in, you'll see that each pixel is very clearly defined as compared to the next one. And look at those smudges that Jörg is showing. If you reduce that threshold, it's going to try to make those little darker colors and the brighter colors blend a bit more. But in order to do that, It needs to go and fire more rays in between, find that color that connects them, and create a small gradient. That's the whole process of cleaning up noise. Of course, about 1 million things need to happen to get to that point, but contrast is the main definer in my view. If your whatever you have there, like depth of field, you cannot have contrast around depth of field because that makes it look fake and pixelated. It has to be smooth. The smoother the depth of field, the more natural it looks. And the same with motion blur, the same with anti-aliasing. The stepping we see in anti-aliasing, that's because we don't have enough gradation between the two parts that are creating the aliasing, the stepping. So the general answer to it is that resolution doesn't matter as long as what you're doing is visible or not. All right, you can make a huge image, massive resolution, 16,000 by 16,000. If this particular parts of your image do not have visible grain, you're good to go. And always take that, imagine that in the size that you're going to see it. All right, if it's a magazine, a print, then pixels are going to look smaller than they are on a normal screen, a 72 ppi screen. But if you're looking at things on a higher resolution screen, an 8K screen, for example, each pixel is going to be smaller, so the noise is going to be less noticeable. So all these things, you need to take them into account, and the methods are what Jörg showed you. And sorry for taking up so much of your time.
Yeah, no problem. The explanation was perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to mention, because I think you also said where you have to take account when you're doing some animations or stills, where's the difference, or where you have to look at. And I think there are just two things you need to look at when you're doing an animation, and that's the motion blur. I already mentioned that when you have a lot of motion blur, you need to higher the max samples, so it's getting clean, like the same you have with the depth of field. And the other one is the global illumination part, as we are using at the moment brute force for the primary GI engine. That means that the first light ray is computed by GI, and that's normally not very fast. So brute force is just very heavy for the GPU. And for the secondary bounces, we use the irradiance point cloud. And this irradiance point cloud can sometimes be a little bit unstable for animation. So maybe you get some flickering around some lights. I have to say that it's for our animations, most of the time it works perfectly, also with brute force and irradiance point cloud. So we don't have noticeable flickering. But if you have flickering, then you can try to tweak those settings, or you need to just set this to brute force. But especially if you're talking about interior renderings, I would not really recommend it, because it will get a lot slower with brute force. But if you want to be sure that nothing is flickering and you just have one shot to render it, and then you have to go with brute force. I think those are the settings I would recommend to check when you're doing animation stuff.
It's generally advisable for interior architectures that have subtle animation to use irradiance cache. If you want precision, though, you have to go brute force, and then pump those samples in. But that's for accuracy. So again, it's up to you to choose the balance between those two. But architectural, as far as I know, the majority of good architectural renders are always done with some sort of irradiance cache.
Yeah, because otherwise you have to be crazy to use brute force in some interior renderings. I mean, you see it here; it just renders 55 seconds. Before we were like 16 or 19 seconds, and now you can and it's a really small resolution. So now start interpolating it on a higher resolution, and you end up with frame times for 1 hour or 2 hours. That's not nobody does it. Only if you're crazy. So, okay, let's just move on. Yeah, let's just cover the next part. I also teased it a little bit in the last stream, and it's about how we handle our ACES output in post. So we normally use the ACES color mapping. At the moment, we still use the Redshift ACES color mapping and not the internal cinema mapping, because it's not integrating good in our timeline, but maybe this will change in the future. But I just want to let you know that we still use the Redshift one. And from our side, there are just so maybe there are more ways to handle the ACES, but what we are doing, we are doing the post always in After Effects. So even our still images we compose in After Effects and not in Photoshop, for example, because for us it's faster, it's more reproducible. We have all the Red Giant plugins there, and if there is an animation, we can just continue with the still and make an animation out of it. So if you're doing this all in Photoshop and you're painting there, and then the client comes and says, okay, now I want an animation, you start totally over in After Effects, and it will look different. So we always stay in After Effects. For us, it's better because we can exchange the footage more easily when there are some corrections from the client. So that's our pipeline. And I think there are 3 ways we are using. Like, we can use the native After Effects ACES functions. I would show this to you in a minute. I will just give you a brief overview. So there is a native integration since, I don't know when, like 1.5 or 2 years ago, I would assume. So we can use this. As it is Adobe, it comes with some pros and cons. So I will show it to you. Then there is a plugin from Fnord. I don't know. It's called Open Color IO. We use this, and of course you can just bake in the color mapping directly in Cinema 4D, and just use the color mapped footage without doing this in the post. I think that's, in a lot of projects, that's good enough, and it's you don't have to do all the post stuff. So we always say here, we are not doing Hollywood stuff here. And most of the time it's good enough to just render out the image, do some simple color adjustment, and it will look good if you're doing the right adjustments directly in 3D. So let's switch into After Effects. I just prepared something. Like the first, I just took the scene from the last stream we had here, like where we had the different light layers we created here with the sun, for example. Then we have the sky. We have the like it was an emission, I think, or refraction, and we have the diffuse lighting here, and we just add them together and get the final image here. And you can see here that everything looks fine, and that's why we used here you can go here into the project settings of After Effects, and I already switched this one from, like, the default setting is Adobe Color Managed, and we switched it here to Open Color IO Color Managed. That's all you have to do. The working space has to be ACES CG. I think there's a long list, especially if you're doing show all, but that's, for us, it's always ACES CG. And that's it. So your whole composition is now interpreting the footage correctly. And the only thing you have to be careful a little bit is that you have to also set the import settings for your footage also to ACES CG. ACES ACCG. Then it should look exactly like what you're seeing in the live viewer in Redshift. So I already said what's the problem now? It looks good, and you can put it all together. And like we said here, we can adjust it here, like having less light coming from the outside, for example. So that's what we can do here now. But the problem we always have with this approach is that we now have a composition that is totally an ACES space. So when you're working with color corrections, for example, if you just want to create a curve, it's not behaving like you're used to. You can see it's when you're going too bright, it will just clip into some colors here. And you also can see that even if you're doing it slightly bright here, it's always staying gray here, so it won't get overblown. And yeah, that's sometimes a problem if you want things to be really white and not gray, and it's not what you're really used to. And you can really see it. For example, I just imported here a JPEG from Maxon, and you can already first it looks good, but you then have to interpret it as some ACES to RGB. So it looks okay at first, but you see this, and that's a problem with ACES. When you have these inverted ACES profiles that is applied here, and that's nothing else he's doing when you're just saying it's sRGB. Then you have these, you see it that you get this jiggered edges here, those hard edges around white things. Like you have now white here, but the edges are really sharp. You don't have this in the original. And if you want to do some color correction on it, it's also, yeah, it's not reacting like you're used to. That makes it hard. And you also have a problem when you're going inside here. You can, if you're looking here on the RGB values, you see, okay, it's like way beyond the, like it's another color space. It's a lot bigger than just 255, and it's nothing where you can work good with some corporate colors, for example. So if you just want to composite your image here and don't want to add anything else, it's okay. You can also add, like from Red Giant, these optical glow, for example. Switch this to linear. Then we can say, okay, just show me the glow only, and we can just clip it to just to the highlights, for example. Just the fall off maybe a little bit, and then make it, for example, a little bit bigger, and then make it less bright and turn this off, and then you can add some glow here. So yeah, if that's the only thing you're doing, I think it's working good, and it's very uncomplicated, and it's very robust. You don't need any plugins or something. So for this, it's good. But I also want to show you the other way we are doing it. You can see it's looking exactly the same, but the only difference here is we have this plugin, Open Color IO, and it's just set to input space ACCG and display sRGB. The view transform is also ACES SDR video, and that's it. And it's just added to an adjustment layer above the rendered images. And what you can see, if I turn this off, it's just the image is just linear without any color mapping or anything. So it looks a little bit strange. But as soon as you add this effect to your stack, you see it will just apply the transform, the color mapping here, and it looks great. So the cool thing about this is that we don't have an, if you go here to color, we are still in the Adobe Color managed color engine. So we don't have any problem with when we are adding, for example, this logo here. It's still, yeah, we can mix up ACES stuff with some normal sRGB stuff with some typo, and we are still in this normal color space, as you can see here. Like in the sRGB, you can pick colors, you can for example add a curve here, and it will behave like you're used to, if you want to make it brighter, for example. And what you can also do, you can add on your image like a curve and make those brighter spots get really white or exactly white, like you want, and get some contrast to it. So that's the way we prefer, I have to say. And yeah, and the other thing is you can just, I think that was just the color mapped image we exported. You can just use this one and don't even have to go to 32 bits, because this will just take a lot of RAM and will take longer for the compositing process. So just render out the color mapped stuff without all this AOV stuff. You can add a curve. For this kind of stuff, we most of the time take this. There's this Uniglow. So this maybe looks a little bit strange in the beginning, but when you adjust the threshold here, you most of the time you can set the intensity a little bit lower. So yeah, as you can see, we are now working just an 8-bit color space, and we can still add some glow here, some decent glow. And I think the difference between those two in this case is very subtle. So if you don't need the whole control or everything and just want to don't want to waste a lot of time for the compositing, just render out the already color mapped stuff, and I think in most cases it will be totally enough. With this workflow here, where you can combine those two things together, it's also like, let me just load it again here. So what you can do here also is that you can, for example, use those linear passes here with all this color data and just put a glow, for example, on this one here. So I think it's just, in this case, we take the optical glow and set this to linear, and then we can clamp the highlights again, and then we will just get those highlights here. I think it's just a little bit too bright. We can adjust here we have the glow only, adjust the highlight, make it a little bit bigger, for example, and then we can just screen it or edit. And so we have all the possibilities to tune this stuff. I think it's more flexible than just doing all this or the whole comp into another color space. So most of the time we are using this workflow, but I think in 50 or 60 or 70% of our project, it's enough to just go with the with 8 or 16-bit and the already color mapped image, because most of the time we tweak it inside of 3D already to that it's looking good, and we just add some glow or some color correction in the post with some mats. So yeah, that's what I have to say about the color mapping process. And I think I have to go a little bit faster because we have a lot. I want to show more today. So I will just show you another video because I wanted to. We wanted to add some details to interior animations, and we created an animation for Swarovski lighting. And we started with some still images and thought about making an animation. And then we thought just flying inside of a room or around a lamp will not be so satisfying. So we tried different things to bring some life into the scenes. And first have a look, and then we will go through all the scenes, and I will just give you some tips what we did there. Okay, so no, not once again. So how we brought life into our scenes. Again, a short overview, and then we will go through the scenes. We made some, so I think it's not about just moving things around, and so it's obvious that there you animated some stuff. It's about some very subtle animations for all the stuff. So it's something is moving, but it's not like directly in your face. We also used some mocap animations. Maybe you notice this, maybe not. We will just go through it. We have also some animated textures I will show you later. And we have some time-lapse lighting animations, and we simulated some cloth. We not only cloths, but also some trees were animated. And at the end, we had those caustics that were actually not real, because this would have rendered forever. So we searched for a way to just fake it. So let's switch over so we can have a look here. That's the right tab here. So actually, let's go here. What you can see here, and I think I will close this because we don't render at the moment. This is the first scene from the animation, and you can see we also always try to set the depth of field already in the viewport, so we see what we get hopefully at the end. And maybe you don't really see a lot, but I think it should be visible, especially when you're scrubbing through here a little bit faster. Maybe we remove this depth of field effect for a short time. You can see that it's just a subtle motion, and it would be a lot of work to do this manually. So what we were doing here, if you go here, you see that we have all those lights here, and we just added a vibrate expression to a null object with some rotation and a very small frequency. They have all the same values here. The only thing that's different is the seed. And a good trick for this is like you can calculate in every input field in Cinema 4D. So what we can do here to set a different number, like when we're putting here a 0, then every tag has now a seed of 0, and when you should see it here that they are now moving all the same in the same direction and have the same timing. So that's not what we wanted. But what you can do here, you can just select everything and type in num, and this will just give you an internal index of your selection you have. Like you get a 0 for the first connected for the first selected object, 1 for the next, and so forth. So as you can see here, I just typed in here number, and what we have now is that we have a seed of 0 in the first one, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So everything has a different seed, and you can see they are moving now independently and different, and that's what we wanted here. So yeah, vibrate tag, I will show you in the next scenes, and you will see that we did a lot with the vibrate tag because it's a very fast and efficient way to animate things in Cinema 4D with some random values. So that's the first scene. The second scene here I want to show you was this one here. And again, we have some so we have this rotate animations from the other scene. It's just the same. And what we also have here in the background, I would just so you can see here are the lamps, and what we have going on in the background here, we just have a woman. I think textures are disabled maybe, or layer colors. There we go. So we have this motion capture data. It's from Render People. I think it's just a free model. Like they have some free models, and I think that's one of them. And you can see it's just some woman standing there. It doesn't make any sense really, but when you see it from here, you can spot her right here in the depth of field. And you see it just gives it a little bit of movement in the background here. It's very subtle, but it makes it, without the woman, it's really dead in the background. So, and because of the motion capturing data, it looks really realistic, and that's all we needed for in the depth of field here. So that is how we use some very subtle motion capturing data. And then we go to the next scene, and here, big surprise, we have some vibrate tag here with a different seed on all those lamps, as you can see here. But what you might have seen is here in the background, you have some birds flying along, and I think from the movement is really realistic, and we could have used some particle setups or whatever, but this we always search for an efficient way. And if you're looking outside here, you can see that it's like the background is just a cylinder with some image on it. And if you're going here, you can see that the birds are just a texture on a plane. So what you can see here, it's just a black plane with an alpha channel that I think we just downloaded from the internet. We have an account for Envato or something. It's called Envato Elements. It's very cheap, but you have a flat rate for a lot of footage, stock footage, and so forth. So this is really handy, and you just go there, get some video clip. I mean, you could also do this in After Effects with Particular, for example. And then you can just place it around and adjust the timing and the texture, and it will just give you some a realistic touch, I would say, in the scene. Then we have this one here. I mean, here is the movement here is very, very small, but also big surprise here. We have some vibrate tags here that are just doing this kind of motion. And we did this with a loft and with two rectangles. So we have on top we just have a rotation here, and at the bottom we have some movement. So it's getting a little bit, it's different as if you would just move a cube around one axis. So it's a little bit more random. So you get this movement here on the left side. What we did here, like here we had that was interesting because doing a time-lapse animation with some light coming from the outside and animate this stuff is not so hard. But the problem is the outdoor buildings. Like normally we would have just like in the scene before, we would just take an image here from a city. But the problem is you won't really get a good city from the perspective you need in day and night situation. So we needed a way to also blend the outside from day to night. And what we did here is we had some, like, it's looking a bit wild here, I think. But so that's the city we used. And I think we just used something from Video Copilot. They have the city kit and they have textures for day and night. So what we did here was we had some takes here for day and the night version, and we just blend them over in the post processing, in the post and After Effects. So yeah, we had a perfect blending between day and night with the also taking the outside into account. So it was a lot of work, but I think it's the only way you can achieve a good result. Maybe, yeah, maybe there are other solutions, but we tried it this way and we were really happy with the result. Then we have this scene. This one is really heavy because there's a lot of stuff going on. What we did here is, I mean, these are all very, very, very subtle animations. So maybe you didn't really recognize it when you watched the animation. I can just recommend to go to our YouTube page. Just Google for Fuchs and Vogel. We uploaded the whole movie there in 4K, I think, so you can just watch it again. Because I also think it's maybe lagging a little bit in the stream. So what we did here, we just used some animated trees here that were exported into an alembic, so you can see it's moving a little bit. Yeah, it's not the stream that is lagging here. It's actually the alembic file. So we have some stuff going on here. We have a displacer on the pool that is animated. Or should be animated, like you have here this animation speed on, so it's doing something here. We also simulated those curtains here. You can see here it's all cashed out alembics. And another big surprise, I think we had some rotates here on the lamps. And what we also did here, like for this small tree to wiggle a little bit around, I think we have a vibrate tag again. So as you can see, a lot of things can be achieved with the vibrate tag if you just use it on the right parts here. Like we have here vibrate tags, we have it on this slide here. Literally everything here has a vibrate tag that is moving a little bit, except for the trees outside and the water. So I can just recommend try it if you need some small movements in your scene. Yeah, and at the end we have this final shot here where I already said that the caustics you see here. Maybe let's just switch to this here again, right? So we can just render something. Yeah, so what you can see here is the image, and when we go to those lamps, they are just instances. So you can see we just made instances of everything, and there you see that we have some lights without any caustics, and then we have lights with caustics, and those fake caustics are just you can just go here. I think it's just not visible. So like this, and they are also invisible. So what you can see here is just we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights here, and they are pointing into every direction except for the up direction. So yeah, so watching it without anything, it's a lot of lights, but it's still yeah, getting real caustics out of it. I mean, we now have new caustics. I don't know if it works better. I don't think so with the new ones, but doing real caustics is always a pain, and it will take forever to render. So yeah, that's what we did here. And how did we achieve this look here? If you have a look, we just make this invisible again, and you can see here that's what we achieved with it. It's just it's just different takes. You just see the background without the visible lights here, but the caustics. And what you see here as caustic is just some texture we put
Oh, so it's a
into.
gobo light, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's just a texture, and you see it if we locate the image. It's just from Pingo. That's it's called HDR caustics, and there are different images of caustics, and you can just fake it, and that is really cool. Yeah, because you get clean caustics within seconds and don't have to render it hours, and nobody knows how it will do look physically correct. So even the lighting producer Swarovski was totally blown away. They liked it, and yeah, for us we just we didn't have to spend a lot of time on rendering stuff. Yeah, so this is how we achieved it. I think we already spent a lot of time here. Do we have more time for the exterior part? Is it
Yep.
okay?
Show us the grass. Let's go for 10 minutes more, and then
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
just kick you off the stream.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we can just go through it. I prepared this image here. That's was one project we did, and I just wanted to point something out, how to achieve, how to give your exterior renderings the final touch, I would say. So what we regularly do is we just focus on details, like you get everything right that's at the house. So yeah, put some time into some details. It will pay off. You need some good nature stuff like plants. You have something in the asset browser from Laubwerk, for example, or you can go to Globe Plants, or yeah, there are different suppliers for this. You need a good grass setup. I will talk about this later because we have one. And yeah, and work on a good lighting. That's maybe we will talk about this shortly, because this, I think that's the most important part, because a lot of yeah, when you see a bad looking image, it's mostly the lighting that is not really on spot. And add some subtle post effects, like I showed already, with some glow effects or some lens flare. That's always good. And here, that's our Aquits grass. We have like a realistic grass setup. It's very easy to set up, and it's optimized for big scenes. And that's why we already use it for our daily work. And I will just switch over to Cinema 4D to show it to you. Like, I just wanted to point out the scene here. Yeah, it's just it's rendering here. Okay, so we have the scene here. You can see that's the building, and we have this this camera angle here. So that's exactly the scene. What you don't see here is that a lot of stuff out there. We made different cameras in the scene, so we needed a lot of stuff out there outside of this range. But the problem is if you're scattering a lot of stuff here, and I can just turn this on. You get a bad your performance. You get a performance loss, and so you don't really need this stuff when you're working on some details. So what we have here is we have a new plugin that's called, it's not so new, we released it like a half a year ago. It's called Enable on Render Time, and what it does is, even if you disable all the stuff here, and you add this tag and say enable on render time, as soon as you hit the render button, it will be activated and it will render. And this works with every generator in Cinema 4D. So not only for cloners, it works with everything. And for us, it has become a very important plugin, because most of the time, if you turn stuff off, you forget to turn it on again when you do the final rendering. And so when you're going like this, you set up, you're making a setup for the surrounding area, you just disable it, put the tag on it, and you don't have to care about it. It will just render when you render the image. And here, so the important part, it will just render in the final image. So in the live view, it will still be disabled. So maybe I hope it will render now. Maybe we make it a little bit smaller. Maybe it's still a little bit big. Yeah, like this. So what I just prepared here was, I think it is the lighting we had when we, yeah, I think that's the setup we had here. Like we just, I just call it good light and bad light, but it's just an HDR image we used here with the sun. That's it. That's the magic of the light. And like I already stated in the first stream, always do it from the side. That will always look the best. Like you need to have some shadows and some light, because some people think if everything is bright, then it's perfect, but it's not. You need both of it. And what we also added here is that we placed some trees you don't see in the perspective, but we just placed them behind the camera, so we get those nice shadows here. Because otherwise, when you just turning them off, you see it will kill the atmosphere, and it will just look bold and very, very bright here. So you get some more atmosphere by just adding some shadows. And I just wanted to show you the bad light I prepared. This is just something where the light is coming, I think, directly from camera position, and it's all very bright. It's the same HDR image we're using here. So it's the same light source, but just because we have changed the direction, it just looks ugly, and the light is now coming directly from behind the camera, and you see you don't have a lot of shadows. Like everything is very bright, not a lot shadows, and it's just an advice. Look for good shadows, not only light. That's very important. So before I get kicked out of the stream,
you're very close.
Very close. I just wanted to show you what you can do with our setup we created. Let's just hit the render button here, and we just put that on Gumroad, and it's really easy to use, because you have those two groups here. You have drop your splines or meshes here, or you have drop your mask objects here. And what you can do here, you can just put, for example, a spline here, and you can see you get some really nice looking grass here in your spline. You can also add another spline here, and it will just subtract it here, for example. You can see it. Yeah, just it will just merge the spline. You can move it around. What you can also do is you can also add, for example, a cube here without the stuff, and add a plane, for example. And as you can see, it's really fast. You can just make it bigger. It's a lot of it's a really big scattering setup. Doing all this, just make it a little bit more round so it looks a little bit smoother here. And I think it's really detailed. You can also go very close to it. And a really good thing is if you want to place a tree, for example, just take a cylinder here. So that's our tree. Let's take this outside here. And for example, we say this is our tree. Normally you have something like around the tree there's happening something with the grass. So what we did here, we can just say drop your mask object here, and what it is doing, it is just, you have to convert it into some geometry, and what it's doing here, it's like fading out the grass around the tree. That's how it's most of the time looks like when you have a tree. Like there's not so much grass around it because of the shadows and not so much water it's getting there. So you can just put in your tree here, and yeah, it will just get rid a little bit of the grass. And for us, it's so helpful because you get a really good border around everything. That was really important for us, that you don't have big grass things that will make the border itchy or something. So it's a very clean border you get, and you can just put another rectangle, for example, that's somewhere else. So you can just, if you have an outline for your spline, for all the grass areas you want to populate in your setup, you can just it's very easy. Just throw in a spline or multiple splines, and you get this grass everywhere. And you have, of course, some adjustments here for some subtle floor bumps, for example, to make it a little bit more more bumpy. For this, I think you have to do this, make this subdivided or something, so you get a little bit bumpier on the ground. And yeah, you can also, like when we have these flowers here, we can just turn them off, or we can just make more flowers and get another seed for the flowers. So so you get some really fast, neat looking grass. And as you can see, it's from the detail is really good. We worked on the shaders. At the moment it's just for Redshift, but we will try to convert it also to Corona and Octane. So yeah, that's exactly the setup we are also using here. A good thing also is what we implemented here. You can disable the scattering and just say show on render time only, and it will do the exact same thing what we did with the plugin. So you have a fast responding scene, and the grass will only be rendered if you're doing your final render. You can see here it was now disabled, and it's still disabled. I don't know why.
Okay, so very practical setup. It's really fast and versatile.
I think you have to enable it, and then hopefully it should also render if you yeah, then it's
There
working.
you go.
So yeah.
And it was built by people that actually do this for a living. So I assume it's good.
Yeah, so we are using it in our daily work, and yeah, I think that's here's just an overview. And as I said before, we have a code that's called Maxon Stream 25, and you get 25% off, and we have this for the next 2 weeks. Yeah, so you get we have other plugins. Just have a look at our Gumroad, and yeah, yeah, and if you want to support us, that's great. And I think especially the grass setup, it was something we put a lot of work into it, and we use it so much, and it's just one click solution, and it's looking good. I think and the performance is really good for Redshift, and yeah, I think that's a very big helper we have here.
Yeah, that's it looks fantastic. So this brings us to the end of this series. Now, having said that, you can use the usual communication channels and the contact form, the ask the question, and so forth. If you would like us and to visit more architectural visualization and relevant topics, we're always planning around what our users need. I want to thank you, Jörg, for being with us and showing us and sharing your valuable knowledge and showing your amazing work. And yeah, I will see you around. We do hang out in similar places with Jörg. Keep doing the fantastic work you've been posting. Check out their website just to make sure that you are. Oh, did I lose it? Where's it's over here, and I can't read from where I am. There it is. So copy link. I'm just going to post it again in the comments just in case someone missed it. And yeah, I want to thank everyone for hanging out with us and absorbing the knowledge from our amazing artists. Again, thank you very much, Jörg. Please give my best regards to the whole team.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
It's our pleasure and honor. And yeah, I need to click a couple of buttons to bring up some sort of end screen. Everybody, thank you for hanging out with us. We'll see you on the next show. Enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, catch you on the flip side.